Hello and welcome to another episode of Top Deck, the series where we take a look at some of the leading TCG deck lists. So this time we have on Carlo's first place list from the LLDS in Chichester, and he was playing the Sky Striker Trickstar build, and there he went entirely undefeated at the event, didn't even drop a single game. So as per usual, we'll run through the list and the rounds, and then we actually have a full tournament report from him because it was only a 4-round event, and then we can also go through some questions that I asked him. So starting off with the list, we have triple Ash Blossom, triple Droll Knockbird, triple Candina, 1 Lilybell, triple Licorice, triple Called by the Grave, double Desires, triple Scapegoat, 1 Afterburners, triple Hornet Drones, 1 Widow Anchor, triple Engage, triple Terraforming obviously, triple Light Stage as well, and then triple Impermanence. I don't think we've seen this much in the main before, but obviously the meta has been changing recently, and then triple Reincarnation. So that's it for the main deck. The extra we got Borreload, Firewall, then the Nightmare names, 1 Link Spider, 1 Link Karibo, double Kagari and 1 Shizuku, then the Space Insulator, Topologics, and the 1 Holy Angel. So this is kind of the sort of flexible option that people don't always run in their deck. For the side, triple Ghost Ogre, 1 Sphere Mode, so definitely intended for things like Goki, then triple Shared Ride for the mirror, I guess, and then triple Twisters, triple Evenly, and double Heavy Storm Dusters. There's a bunch of utility for all of these against different sort of back row decks, or these can just be used against most decks in general because they just set stuff in order to avoid being reincarnationed. Alright, so we'll take a quick look at the siding strategy here. So for Goki, going first, he puts in the Shared Rides and takes out 2 Pot of Desires. He already main stuff that can deal with Goki essentially. And then going second, obviously he's adding in the Ghost Ogres and Snow Rabbits, and the 1 Sphere Mode, taking out the 1 Reincarnation, 1 Scapegoat, and 1 Widow Anchor, and presumably another card if he feels like he wants the Sphere Mode in. Then for Pendulum Magicians, going first, he's putting in triple Ghost Ogre and taking out the Impermanence. It's just that Ghost Ogre tends to be a slightly better card in this particular matchup. Going second, he puts in the Sphere Mode as well, plus the Evenly Matched, and takes out the Widow Anchor, Scapegoat, Reincarnation, and Call by the Grave, in addition to the original set there. For the mirror match, or for pure Trickstar, going first he's putting in the Dusters because you want to set that and then your opponent starts playing around Reincarnation and you just pop all of their resources, and obviously Shared Ride is really important in this matchup, taking out the Widow Anchor, the Afterburners, 1 Reincarnation and 2 Pot of Desires. Then going second, he's putting in the double Twin Twisters and taking out 1 Scapegoat and 1 Reincarnation, just allowing him to essentially trigger off that Reincarnation if he can't play around it in certain scenarios, which can be pretty helpful as well. Also, you can force out a Scapegoat, which is always nice. As for the Altergeist and Draco matchups, the siding is the same for these two. Going first, he's putting in the Twisters and the Heavy Storm Dusters, just able to pop back row immediately, taking out the Impermanence, Reincarnation, and Widow Anchor, which is obviously fair enough because the Impermanence isn't going to do a whole bunch in this particular matchup, and you don't want too many of the going second cards like the Widow Anchor. And then for going second, putting in the Twisters again, the Evenly Matched, and the Heavy Storm Dusters anyway, because the decks tend to sort of grind out the game, so your Dusters still going to perform really well. Taking out a Scapegoat, a Reincarnation, a Widow Anchor, the 3 Drolls, and the double Impermanence. I guess you take out the Drolls because you do expect, like it does nothing against Altergeist, and even against Draco you find that people often have a Call by the Grave or Romano and Watto if they're playing those particular builds, and if they're not, then they always make the statements about how ultimately Droll doesn't do a lot to them because they'll just grind out the game a little bit more and then play in the next turn instead. So as for the rounds, round 1 he went up against Goki. He opened first, went really well, and his opponent seemed to open okay, but of course Carlo ended up winning this. Game 2, his opponent went first and didn't extra link, so Carlo broke through the board slowly and burning for game very slowly throughout there, and then flipped a Scapegoat in order to give him the win, so took 2-0 there. Round 2 against Time Lords, so game 1, his opponent burnt the hell out of him, but Reincarnation, Impermanence, and Ash were all really good at preventing his opponent from activating specific effects and cards, and then in game 2, they basically just burnt each other for a lot of damage, and were under 1,000 life points, but he managed to win by just draw locking his opponent out of the game. So 2-0 there against Time Lords. And then for round 3, game 1 was very back and forth, nothing too abnormal about the matchup. He grinded to victory, and the links in his extra were just too good. So that's the win game 1, and then decided very heavily for the matchup. His opponent went first in game 2, and Carlo opened really well. He had things like Twin Twisters, Light Stage, and Engage as a start, which is always really good. And then he basically just carried on destroying his opponent's back row with the Twin Twisters that he sided in. So running fairly low on resources, he kept attacking his opponent, and his opponent was just running out of life points. Eventually he got to a second Light Stage and could apply more pressure with Licorice, Lilybell, and Candina, and a Licorice and Reincarnation Engrave, so that just won him the 3rd round. Round 4 was the finals, and he faced against a friend who he'd met that day, so he knew that his opponent would be playing Pendulum Magician by this point. He went first in game 1 and opened Impermanence, Reincarnation, Droll, Called by the Grave, and some other trap. So he just set 4 and passed the turn. His opponent starts off with a Dragon Shrine, sending Darkworm, and then specials it in order to search gate 0, so he just Droll locks his opponent out of the game, and at that point his opponent scoops. For game 2, his opponent opens really well, ends on a decode that points to a Tornado and an Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon. Carlo opened 0 hand traps, so was about to surrender, but drew for turn, and drew into the one Ras Fear Mode that he'd sided in, and summoned it straight away. Then he used the Hornet Drones, and continued to play his okayish hand, and just basically out-resourced and out-grinded his opponent for the victory, winning the final 2-0, so getting very lucky drawing into that Sphere Mode there. So he didn't drop a single game at all, and he was really happy with the list. He feels like it's a going first list, but due to the hand traps, obviously it can go second, and it has so many engines that start the deck, which is why he likes it so much. So as for the questions that I asked Carlo, starting off with how was the event overall, he said it was really well run, and he had so much fun, and everyone was really nice, that's all good. And then why did he choose to play Trickstar Strikers? He said he had chosen the deck as it is the one that he knows the best out of the ones that are relevant in this meta. Also, he really enjoys playing it anyway. And he's got triple Impermanence in the main. I wanted to know if this is a result of the potential for Goki matches. We know that it's a very popular deck in the current meta. He said yes, that was definitely a factor that made him play 3 in the main. Also because he wanted to play something that was good for the mirror alongside Goki, which has a strong applicability to both. However, Licorice can make Candina dodge the negate, but it's worth the risk as it's good against Skyblaster and Kakari as well. I wanted to know how he found Linkuriboh now that it's easily available. I don't think we've featured a deck that included it since its release in the EU regions. He said it was really great, he was hyped for it for so long, and it's just so strong, and he couldn't help but play it like everyone else. Then, as we mentioned, Holy Angel is kind of the flex card in the extra for this event, so I wanted to know how he found it. He said it was only used a few times, but it worked really well with Licorice and Lilybell's effects. It was very helpful at clearing space for playing the Sky Striker cards as well. Obviously there's only one Sphere Mode in the side, but he potentially has 12 hand traps after siding. I want to know if this was because he just preferred hand traps over Sphere Modes, and why this is. And he says yes, he definitely prefers hand traps because he doesn't like having Sphere Mode. He likes Kaijus, but he doesn't like Sphere Mode because it uses the normal summon, and without the Hornet Drones, basically he just ends his turn at that point, and sometimes you just can't do anything in that scenario. Then I asked him what are the deck's easiest and hardest matchups. He said the easiest were things like Rogue. Goki isn't particularly easy or hard, it just depends on what each of you and your opponent open. And he wouldn't say that Pendulum is easy, but a lot of the time when he plays against it, he finds that it isn't too difficult to outgrind them. The hardest matchup for him is Altergeist and B.A. Sekka. Those two are just so strong at negating everything that you do, so he was worried about playing against them. As for changes that he'd make to the list, the only change that he would make is cutting the Widow Anchor for either a jamming wave or when Saiho is legal, he's considering putting in Array alongside a Hayate, and that way it would go in. He doesn't really know what he would be cutting yet, but potentially the Shizuku. As for additional comments that he'd make about the deck, he doesn't really have anything else he wants to mention, but he wants to thank all of the people that were just about to shout out for him for the theory, siding advice, and testing. It's a very fun deck to play, and he'll most likely use it in the next format if it's still around. As for the shoutouts that Carlo wanted to make, so shoutouts to YGO TCG Bournemouth, which are his locals, and he says the best one, as well as everyone there. Oliver Newton for the side deck advice versus Altergeist, Tyler Convery for actually telling Carlo that the event existed, JY Sharif, Joe Munns, and Matt Odell for being good friends and supporting Carlo at events, Ryan Nye and Josh Mason, as well as the shop CGC Chichester for making the event so awesome. Also shout-outs to Usman and all his friends for being great. Also shout-outs to everyone he played against. He had a lot of fun with them. Shout-outs to the Testing Boys group chat. And finally shout-outs to the Cobalt Boys, especially Sebek, for all the help and discussions. So thanks very much, Carlo, for sharing your list and all of this information. It's really cool to see that you can still do really well with Trickstar Sky Striker in a format that's largely dominated by Goki, and it can be particularly hard, so you do have all of these sort of additional main deck and side deck options in order to take on that matchup and emerge victorious. Congratulations on going undefeated, that's really strong, and hopefully we'll see you again on the channel. Thanks for watching this episode of Top Deck. If you have any comments or suggestions that you would like to make, leave them in the comment section down below. Check out the description for details of how you can get involved in this series. You can enter by voice interview, or instead you could just send all of your information over Facebook Messenger. Anything like that will be absolutely fine. If you want to see anything in particular from the upcoming series, then be sure to get in touch, and I'll see you guys in the next video.